Hello, fearless listeners and viewers. Welcome to the Diaries of Badass Bosses podcast. I'm Joyner-Platt.
And I am Tigz.
And we are back for season 2. Welcome. We're going to dive deep into the lives of extraordinary individuals who redefine what it means to be a boss.
That's right. This season we have lined up a stellar cast of guests who have shattered glass ceilings, forged their own paths, and inspired change in their respective fields.
I mean, we're not talking about traditional CEOs here. Our guests include entrepreneurs from a wide range of industries, making waves, challenging the status quo, and sharing their stories behind their journeys.
So whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur, a budding leader, or simply someone who loves hearing about tales of triumph over adversity, then you're in the right place. This is where stories of badass bosses come to life.
And as always, we are joined by our incredible producer, Connor Wells, who always makes sure every episode is an auditory masterpiece.
Thank you, Penny and Tigz. I am thrilled to be back for another incredible series of inspiring stories and unforgettable moments. Get ready for an absolutely incredible ride.
So stay tuned as we embark on this journey to explore the lives, dreams, and fearless endeavours of some of the most badass bosses out there.
Buckle up, because season 2 of Diaries of Badass Bosses is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Diaries of Badass Bosses. It has been a whole week since we last saw each other. How's your week been?
Good, busy. Yeah, definitely feel like at the moment we're kind of gearing up to the end of 2023 now. So it's kind of like, what can we cram in? But I'm not going to complain. I like being busy. It's good. How about you?
Yeah, good. It's been, oh my gosh, it's been such a busy week. I had my mosquito makeover day on Monday.
Lovely.
So getting to hang out with the original de Havilland mosquito prototype and shoot fabulous pin-ups in front of the planes.
They're just stunning as well. Every time I see these photos, these girls, I mean, it's just, I love the fact as well that it's bringing back a look that to me has never ever gone out of fashion.
No, it's absolutely fabulous.
1940s, pin-up girls, absolutely stunning. I mean, the figures are great as well.
Oh, everyone looks incredible. Everyone looks incredible. But I think that brings us really nicely onto actually our topic of the week, thinking about it, because we're talking all about amplifying voices and helping clients to be seen in the way that they want to be seen or heard, how they want to show up for themselves. And I mean, that's really important in both of our business, both from a photography and from a brand strategy and PR point of view as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the lovely Connor helps everybody through moving visuals as well and audio.
Very true. Very, very true.
So for me, I suppose the thing that I like kind of working on is knowing which platform actually works for my clients, because I think the thought is that you have to kind of be on every platform and, oh my God, if I'm not, then am I a success in my own business? But the one thing I like to work with people on is that audience mapping. Understand where the audience is, just so you can kind of know the media that they're consuming. Sorry, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat, so I'm going to clear that, and I'm going to pass over to you, Tigz. Talk to me.
But yeah, I think it's the same sort of questions I'm going through when I'm working with my clients, especially the personal branding clients, and saying to them, you know, which platforms do you want to be visible on? Because the way that we shoot their personal branding images may very well depend on which platform, and, you know, whether you're Instagram and mostly showing 3-4 images in terms of ratio, so we'll be shooting a lot more portrait images, or, you know, do you need it for banners, for Facebook? And so very much having that conversation of where do you need to be visible and what are you trying to say with that image?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you get a brief come in from a client, the one thing I suppose it's kind of working on is kind of sometimes that brief may change and evolve quite easily. Sorry, I'm distracted by that now. Like, this is how live this really is. In the corner of my eye, I've got Connor beckoning me. I'm like, okay, is that
closer,
better?
darling.
Are you happy now? Okay, perfect. God, so funny. Right, well, now that you've distracted me and I've lost my complete train of thought, I'm going to come right back to it and say, when you get a brief from a client, I suppose the main thing is actually understanding what it is they're trying to put across and actually come back to them with an answer to that solution. And sometimes it's completely different to what they think their brief is.
100%.
And that's the thing where I like to be able to be an extension of somebody's business and be able to help get that like message across for them in the right way. We've actually got a real awesome guest today.
Tell me more.
Excited to introduce him. I've actually had the pleasure of working with Alfie in a past business, actually, funnily enough.
Oh, really?
And it's also one of the topics that Alfie and I are going to talk about, is that how we've kind of navigated through our careers, I suppose, and where we are today, but how it's helped develop where he's come from and where he is today. But he's definitely a trailblazer, for sure. Definitely challenges the status quo.
Love that.
So he's ticking all of our boxes.
Absolutely.
For a guest, for a badassery boss. So welcome the delightful Alfie. How are you?
Very well, thanks very much. I don't know about the word badass, though. I've been struggling to say that for the whole entire journey over here.
Okay.
I refuse to say it. I'm going to say arse. So, can we stick with that? Can we change the title?
Look, it's your interview. I'm happy for you to
It's
say
like
what you want to say.
You know, it drives me nuts. Why are you doing it?
Look, I'm from Birmingham, so I mean, to be honest, some of the things that come out of my mouth don't necessarily sound how they should. So, I mean,
I can't comment because you've all listened to the other episode where we were talking about dom care. So
yes,
I still can't. I was even saying this the other day. It's
what's dom care?
Domiciliary care.
Domiciliary care.
If it's too hard to say, take it out.
Yeah, dom care is fine. Dom care is
Don't
fine. It also
say
sounds great.
Yeah.
It's like ombudsman.
Yeah.
Like, who came up with that?
Yeah. I know. Just so people didn't have to say it. I think that was the reason they decided on that. Yeah. They can't use the word, so that means that they can't complain about me. Right, well, back to you, Alfie. I'm going to do a little bit of an intro so that our viewers and listeners know a little bit more about you. But thank you for joining us today. So, the lovely Alfie Brown is the founder of Zumo Agency. He's no ordinary professional, as he says himself. You're a narrative shaping, brand creating, strategy pioneering heavyweight in the digital media world. Now, I'd like to say that these are Alfie's words, because that's why I thought it's great to tell him what he's written about himself. At Zumo Agency, he's aligned with industry giants like Bloomberg, The Independent, Business Insider, City AM, Reuters, and INC to orchestrate high-octane global campaigns and elevate brands. Ooh, some nice names in there. Love that. So, growth strategy is certainly his turf. He doesn't follow, he leads. Nice. He deciphers the market to understand customer behaviour and employ innovative strategies that not only succeed but redefine the game. He has a talent for amplifying the voices of his clients, be it through captivating videos, podcasts, or thought-provoking content. Podcasts, interesting. Simply put, he doesn't just build brands, he makes legends. His speciality is crafting bulletproof digital reputations and enduring legacies. He believes in the power of communication, groundbreaking strategies, and the authenticity that drives them. This is what Alfie excels at.
My copywriters are on point. Unbelievable stuff right there. I mean, it was like reading an obituary.
I know.
Sitting here listening to that,
And
like floating above my ethereal soul while you read out what crap I've been up to over the last 10 years. Amazing.
Well, I tell you what, why don't you put it in your very words and introduce yourself and what you do?
Well, I mean, that's essentially what we do in a very chaotic and poetic way, I suppose. But if you were to sort of nail it down, we essentially provide brands with a platform to have their voices heard. I suppose that's in simplicity what we do. If you forget all the fluff and crap that you've just read there, that's pretty much what we do. But you can get a flavour of what we actually do for brands in terms of that copy there. So, you know, that could literally just be one sentence, you know, but we've extended it out into this weird, flavoursome, fruitful kind of intro that means nothing in reality. But I mean, I suppose our ace in the hole is I've been working in media for well over 10 years now, so moving around from media house to media house, Bloomberg, Forbes, Reuters, you name it, I've been there. And those relationships have stuck. So we've been able to form partnerships with these media houses to actually have direct placements and direct communication with them. So it's not necessarily PR or anything like that. It's not advertorial. It's not ads or anything like that. It's just we have a bit more leverage in terms of being able to twist the arms of editorial teams to actually listen to people, to kind of shove them in front of them, if that makes sense. But
it's relationships, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I mean, you know, that's really like the end part of the journey for what we do. But you mentioned in your intro there that you kind of ask businesses where they want to be seen. What we do is ask them why. Why do you want to be seen? What have you got to talk about? You know, and if it's, you know, absolutely fuck all that no one wants to listen to, then the chances of you appearing in Bloomberg are slim to none, for example. So what we'll do as well is we'll look at that business, we'll go under the skin and kind of look at all of the failures that they're currently experiencing, correct all of those failures, and then amplify their voice. So, you know, we have people coming to us all the time sort of saying, you know, I want my product featured here, here and there. And then you look at their website and it's built on Wix or something. And you're like, well, dude, it's not really going to fly here, because we're going to be sending tens of thousands of people to your website, which is essentially going to fall apart. So let's work on that first. And then we'll move you up. Then we'll step you up. So it's much more of a consultancy, I suppose. And then, you know, the media partnerships are really the end product. But, you know, they're the big shiny things we like to shout about. No one likes to be told that we're going to fundamentally tear your business apart and build it up from the ground again. So
it's a really interesting point, actually, and it came up a couple of times in season 1. So I remember Rachel Watkins was saying that she was on Dragon's Den and her website crashed in the first 45 seconds of going on the show. And so I think there's so much that can be done behind the scenes strategically to build a brand so it's ready for the press that inevitably will come once they fixed.
Sure. And then sometimes, you know, they don't even need that, because we fixed so many things that they're actually starting to get the traction that they wanted. And then you sort of say, okay, if you want to go on Bloomberg, it's going to cost you 80 grand. They're like, well, we probably don't need that right now. We'll come back later, which is fine. Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's those sort of fundamentals, those foundations that you need to correct, fix all the little cracks, fill them here and fill them there and so on. And usually a business can kind of sort itself out. But essentially what we do, I suppose, is we kind of target MDs and CEOs, C-suites of businesses that kind of want to elevate their game. So they've been, you know, swirling around on the weird digital agora that's LinkedIn. You know, they've been sort of plying their wares, but it only gets you so far, because, you know, there is another level, and that would be the sort of blue chip media space, you know, interacting with multinational businesses who aren't necessarily hanging around on LinkedIn all day posting about their dog and their fucking cappuccinos and stuff. So that's who we aim to connect them with in terms of stepping up. So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to go back a little bit, take that step back to where I actually first met you, because I do think this is a really interesting story. And I think it's actually a bit of a testament to your character as well, because you certainly do like to challenge. So I actually met you when you were the editor of the Hertfordshire Investor, and you actually
self-appointed
created. Yeah, exactly. You put yourself in that role. So talk to us. Tell us why you set up, because I think this is a fabulous story. Why you set up?
Pissed off, essentially. Right.
That's a great motivation, isn't it? Being pissed off.
I mean, it was kind of a weird one how I ended up there. It was during COVID, so we were all working from home, so we could pretty much do 10 jobs if we wanted to. So it turns out that, you know, you don't actually need to be chained to a desk for the rest of your life doing a job. And on the side, I started a little web development business called Rocket Site Designs. Amazing name, really cool. And we were trying to get some traction with the Hertfordshire Chamber of Commerce, of all places. We were trying to get in the door and try and work with some of the people in that members organisation. We were told that we're not allowed to join because they have enough web developers within the Chamber of Commerce. And we were like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And it turns out, you know, that one of their highest paying members was provided web development. I thought, this is bullshit. This is like an NGO. You're supposed to be helping people and promoting business. Why is it a pay-to-play system? So I thought, well, fuck you. I'll build an absolute replica of what you're doing and then offer all the services and the membership and the advertisements for free. And so we did that. And we launched, I've got a great web developer that I work with, Kieran Murray. Is a big shout out to Kieran, who still runs Rocket, actually. So we kind of concocted this plan that we were going to build this thing called Hertfordshire Investor.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So we launched Hertfordshire Investor, and we were just allowing everyone and anyone to post content, press releases, you know, and it started really getting traction. We were like, what's going on here? This is kind of an accident, but it's working out pretty well. And we were starting to make some money from it because we were installing like Google ads and things like that. And before we know it, we're making it, you know, 50 quid a week, 100 quid a week, got to $1,000 a week, you know, $2,000 a week. We were like, holy shit, what's going on here? and people advertising for free, direct advertisements, and then press releases. We were doing integrations with other media organizations, like, I was bumping people up to City AM and things like that, and it was going really, really well. And then I got a call from a company called Reach Media, who run all of the local news organizations. And I don't know who they'd been talking to, but probably people at the Chamber of Commerce. And they said, you've got to stop. I said, why? And they said, well, you've copied our business model. I said, yeah, I know. Like, so what? And they sent me a load of cease and desist letters and all this kind of stuff. I just ignored it. And then after a while, a letter came through the solicitors saying, we'd like to buy it from you. I said, well, what are you going to do with it? And I said, get rid of it. It's just deleting it. So they paid me a nice chunk of money. We deleted it, and off we went. That was it. That was the end of Hertfordshire Investor.
So how long, just to put this into perspective, when did you launch the site, and when did the idea happen, and like when did you sell the site? The
idea happened at the beginning of COVID. So when was that?
2020.
2020. March, so it was like April 2020 we did that, and then we sold it February 2021.
Wow. Not
even a year.
Yeah. But this is the power of combining web development, marketing, media, all in one, all under one roof, and just absolutely,
and you were everywhere. I mean, that's the thing, because at the time, it was when I was, we won't say the name, but I was running a business that benefited kind of families. It was a web-based business. And for me, Alfie was a great help, because it was, if anything, it was a great way to kind of get that extra editorial opportunity that was, because my business was so Hertfordshire local as well. But you were everywhere, and that's what, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing Alfie's face somewhere. It was like all his articles or Hertfordshire Investor. So, he knows how to get around.
But this is the beauty of business, and people, some of the best business ideas that have ever been concocted are concocted because someone was pissed off. It's always predicated on emotion.
For sure.
And it kind of just took off wildly. And I there's kind of part of me that wishes that we had kept it. But, the money they were offering was just crazy. So we were like, and it's not what I wanted to do. It was kind of a side project. And, when we started launching it, and then, people like you started turning up, and we were like, shit, what were we going to do? I'm editor-in-chief. I don't know what do I do? Like, ChatGPT didn't exist then. So, it just took up so much time. And I had Kieran, worrying because, the servers were getting overloaded. It was costing us more money. And we were getting, hundreds of press releases every single week. And we were trying to keep on top of all that by, publishing all this stuff. So we didn't want to let people down. It just... in the end, I took the money.
And what would you say you've kind of learned from that experience that you're obviously taking now into your agency and who you work with and your client base and so forth?
Ignorance is bliss. So, nobody would have done that, but we did it because we were ignorant. We had no idea of what was going on, and that enabled us to kind of push the boundaries and kind of do things and take risks that other people wouldn't have done who were already in the industry. It was, if I'd told people about it, because we kept it quite secret, I imagine people would have put me off doing it, purely for the fact that, it was on the borderlines of what was legal and what wasn't legal, and the workloads involved. But what that's also allowed me to do in business now is look at a business that I'm working with, and because I am ignorant to what it is that they do, I can apply that same methodology in terms of, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing X, Y, and Z? 9 times out of 10, they'll say no because they're scared, but we'll do it anyway. And if someone works with me, they have to completely and utterly hand over essentially the keys to their business. Otherwise, there's no point. What's the point of working together? So it has enabled me to be a bit more risky, I suppose. And there are some failures, of course. We don't win every single time, but every failure is a lesson. And, we have to continue to push boundaries. Otherwise, the whole business kind of falls apart. So, I suppose that's the key thing I took from that.
Yeah. Amazing. So tell us more about Zumo Agency and its mission. What inspired you to start the agency?
Greed.
The honesty.
There's a money
wonderful.
theme going on here.
Well, look, I mean, everyone sits here and talks nonsense about passion and all that kind of stuff. I mean, am I passionate about what I do? Slightly, sometimes, occasionally. It's a transient feeling, isn't it? That sort of passion, happiness. But essentially, I do what I do to be able to facilitate my life. So the things that I'm actually passionate about. So I saw a gap, essentially, and I wanted to fill that gap. So initially I was working with Kieran again, so and I was on contract at City AM and at Forbes and at The Independent. So I was building and delivering campaigns for their clients. So what that means is, again, looking at their website, spinning up marketing plans in terms of engagement, doing video content, writing articles, pretty much everything you do in marketing. And I kind of thought, why am I not doing this for me? Why am I doing this for these people? All these clients work with me, not with City AM.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make any sense. And so I thought, I wonder if there's a way to integrate web development, design, marketing, social media, and blue chip media all under one roof, instead of having, you know, like octopus arms reaching into different freelancers and businesses where everything is kind of unconnected and loose, and it's very hard to actually get a practical outcome because you're relying on so many different people. So we decided, let's create Zumo, which is just a made up name. I think I was wandering through Watford shopping centre and saw a juice bar called Zumo and thought that will do.
I thought it might have something to do with Rocket, and like you carried over like the zooming.
Absolutely
theme.
not. No,
No, it wasn't that thought.
No. Nothing to do with that. No.
Trying to find a tenuous link there.
Yeah,
somewhere.
you're clutching at straws there. But we'll get onto that later. But essentially, it was kind of an idea where there were three of us involved to start with. There was me, Sarah, and Kieran, and we all sort of clubbed together. Sarah was social media, Kieran was web development, and I was me, which is essentially kind of sales or sort of business development, that kind of stuff. And then I was the link, the bridge with the blue chip media organizations, and we all came together. And then very quickly worked out that three people working together with all different ambitions and dreams and, you know, and personalities is really, really difficult, really, really hard. So that disintegrated within a couple of months. And then we all went our separate ways, and I stuck with Zumo. And I still work with these people in terms of a sort of business partnership relationship.
Yeah. But
now it's just me. So yeah, that's how we started.
Amazing. And what are some of the notable projects that you've worked on during that time?
So there's been quite a few. So the ESG campaigns with City AM. So we've been working with a lot of up and coming ESG businesses. So companies like OmniView, they do sort of ESG accountancy to help sort of measure your metrics within ESG within companies. There is a group called Progress Together, which is part of the Corporation City of London, run by a lovely lady called Sophie Hume. And that organisation kind of inspires businesses to do better with financial inclusion, social economic diversity. So we're running campaigns with those guys. So it's feel-good stuff, fluffy stuff. It's really, really nice. We've been doing a hell of a lot of that. We've been doing some work with recruitment companies in terms of changing their image, because everyone's got a preconception about recruiters, which is justified because they're mostly assholes. Yeah, so we're trying, changing those images. And I think the thing is with us as an agency is that we are pretty in your face, but a lot of businesses that we work with don't really want people to know that we're working with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because we kind of operate under the radar to be able to elevate them. And if the audience kind of knows that there's some weird, murky agency behind them that's actually propelling them, it gives off the wrong impression. So we kind of keep a bit quiet and under the radar, depending on who we're working with and depending on what clients actually want their audiences to know, which is very few.
Yeah.
Funny enough. People like taking the credit, which is fine.
Fair enough. Yes. I mean, from an amplifying your voice point of view here, so we're going into the kind of nitty gritty. What, from your point of view, do you like specific tactics that you actually prefer to do, especially as the media landscape has evolved so much, particularly when I first started to where we are today? Do you see current trends that you kind of maneuver and work with your clients in? Or is it a case of actually, no, I find that this particular platform is my favourite way to amplify a client, or is it bespoke to them?
That's a great question. There isn't really an answer to that question because it depends who the client is and what they're trying to achieve. So there is no platform that's off limits. We just need to work out what the best fit for that particular client is. But in terms of how it actually works, and the best possible way to amplify your voice is not by getting an article in Bloomberg or doing a video or doing a podcast or anything like that. the best way that we find is by sitting down with the client saying, right, who are the businesses that you specifically want to target? I need a list of 20 of these businesses. If you haven't got that list, you're not ready. We need that list, and we need the individuals within those businesses that you want to speak to. Then what we'll do is use our slippery octopus media tentacles to
That's so creepy.
it is creepy. I have been named that many occasions, and we kind of slide in as a theme.
Oh no,
there's a theme going on.
I feel like we need to put an X-ray on this version, Connor.
It's 10 past 10. It's fine. You're just not open-minded.
Obviously, in terms of like how you amplify people's voice, and you were talking about your slippery tentacles, and that's where we went a little bit off track.
Fine. Okay, so we're back with the slippery tentacles. Okay, so the slippery tentacles go in, and we essentially leverage our partnerships. So we have access to all the databases of our media partners. Well, there's 4 that we have access to, which is Bloomberg, Forbes, The Independent, and City AM. And what we can do then is we can set up what we call a roundtable event. So we'll have like a breakfast, a lunch, or an evening kind of wine soiree, whatever you want to call it. Nice. And what we'll do is we'll start pumping out invites via their channels. So not from us, not from the client, from the media partners, around a particular subject. So let's say it's a company that does AI integrations for like social media or something like that. And so we'd call it the future of AI, and then keynote speaker would be that client. And then what we do is we pump these invites out under the names of these media houses, so it's got that gravitas directly into their inboxes, inviting them to come to this round table. And 9 times out of 10, we get most of them coming because, it's a big media company or whatever. And it's only like an hour long, so it's not taking time out of people's days. It's free food and drink and whatever, so they do tend to turn up. And then we literally get them in the same room. So they can already start shaking the hands of the people they want to meet without all that crap going on behind them. So it's like, right, that's the first port of call. Let's get you shaking hands with these individuals, because that's where the real business is done. And then it kind of spirals off from there. And then we keep the pressure on those individuals that were in that room to directly target them. And then we see what results come out the other end, but it tends to be pretty fruitful doing it that way.
Yeah, certainly.
There are occasions where sort of clients just sort of spin off out of Zumo because they can sort of do the rest themselves, because you kind of come to the end, it's the happy ending, excuse the pun. It's going to be impossible to do this, isn't it?
It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day. Yeah.
This is how we're starting our day.
Yeah, it is the happy ending of most sort of client journeys, because within marketing, I suppose, there is this kind of tedious preamble sometimes where you're sort of, writing up a campaign for like the next 12 months. You're putting in newsletters, social media stuff, ads, whatever you want to do, when the end result is really the client shaking the hand of the person they want to meet. That is the end result. We go straight to that. Why not start with that? I'm pretty impatient as a person, so we just so we just decided, hang on, why are we pissing around with all this? Why don't we just see if that works? And it works. It works really, really well. They're not cheap.
No, I was going to say there's definitely a premium on that.
But if you want results and you're serious about getting results, it's a great way to do it. Really good way. Because it's kind of weird. I get presented with these long, arduous marketing plans, and I'm just staring at it, just waiting for something to jump out the page. It's kind of like that feeling, when you put a condom on and she's still on her phone. Do you know what I mean? It's just really odd. And
sorry, carry on. There's going to be a lot of bloopers on this one. I've got a feeling.
And nothing really happens for a long, long time. So we just jump straight to it.
Get stuck in. Love it. Brilliant. I'm going to hand over to Tigz. I want to find out a bit more about content.
Yes, so video is obviously becoming a much more dominant platform. Are you finding yourself leaning more into video? And what strategies are you using to help entrepreneurs engage with their audiences? Yeah,
we do tons of video. So it's one of the most fruitful ways to sort of deliver a message or thought leadership. I hate that term, but of coercement, I suppose is probably a better name for it. But we don't produce it ourselves as such, but what we'll do, again, with our partners, they usually have media houses within them so they can produce video and podcasts and so on, is we will push them in that direction, because we can sort of consult with them and make sure that we've got the narrative and everything right of the video. And then when the video's done, one of the big problems that a lot of people have is, well, what do we do with it? Where are we going to promote it? But we've already got that lined up. You know, you can produce the video with City AM, for example, and then pump it out straight away. It's all in one package. So it's a very, very powerful way of doing things. And then what we'll do is we'll start chopping up that video and promoting it and pushing it across socials and across the other channels as well. So we'll blast it out to all the other media partners, hoping that they pick it up. 9 times out of 10, they do pick it up because their friends have picked it up. So it's kind of a domino effect, if you know what I mean, particularly if it's interesting content. And, you know, we preach authenticity within our videos and within any of the content that we do, because everyone's tired of the same old corporate bullshit message, you know. People don't want to work with businesses, people want to work with people, but more importantly, people want to work with people like them. So if you can get that across, that number one, you have a solution to their problem and you understand them as individuals, particularly in video, is very, very powerful.
And I heard a little mention of the word podcast in there. I mean, obviously we're on one right now, so we understand obviously the importance of podcasting. But how are you helping brands establish their authority through podcasting channels?
Well, we don't. So I mean, we don't as such. Again, it's the same with the video. So if a client is looking to do a podcast, we will find well-established podcasts that already exist through these media channels. And then we'll get them on there, which by default gives them authority. So it's not necessarily something they need to build. But if they do want to do a standalone podcast, we've just done one for a company called Sigwatch, actually, which are a really, really cool company. What they do is they monitor activism.
Okay.
And then they report to businesses about the risks that are involved. So they'll find out if Just Stop Oil are going to throw like orange paint all over their front doors and stuff, and then do sort of reports, and you can watch like live charts and navigate through data to find out what your risks are as a business for activism. But they have a big problem because they get accused of spying, you know, which essentially they are, I suppose. Sorry. But we set up a standalone podcast with them, but again, we already know where we're going to publish it. And then depending on where it's being published, let's say, for example, you know, on the news section of The Independent, it already gives it that authority. So it's not like we have to build something from the ground up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So I definitely would class you as a very good entrepreneur. And obviously for those people out there listening or watching, what would you kind of want to guide anybody who's potentially thinking of whether they're pissed off and want to set up a business, or actually no, they just are thinking something I've always wanted to do, I'm sick of working for someone else? Like, what's the tips that you would give people considering wanting to be their own entrepreneur?
First of all, be careful of advice, even from me. I would question anyone who offers advice freely that you don't have a very strong relationship with. I question their motives and what their advice is and why they're giving you advice in the first place. But in terms of taking that leap to be able to do it yourself, I mean, you've got to ask yourself one question. Number one, are you really fucking serious about this? Because it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. There's going to be trials, tribulations, devastation, calamity, and hopefully jubilation at the end. But it's a wild, wild ride. And, you know, you've got to be quite thick-skinned, and you've got to detach yourselves from the outcome, if you know what I mean. You have your life, and then you have the business life. Two different individuals coexisting in one entity, essentially. So if you're able to do that, then you might be ready, because the setbacks that you're going to encounter, particularly within the first few months, are going to be horrendous. And if they're not horrendous, you're not doing it right. You're absolutely not doing it right. I mean, we, as a business, are still quite young, and my entrepreneurial journey is still quite fresh. And we encounter setbacks every week, really horrible. I mean, we're going through one at the moment that's devastating, absolutely devastating, nearly killed the business. But you know, you have to have that mindset where you can make sure that you're ready and able to make that decision when a setback happens, that you're either going to be wounded by it or become wiser because of it. And that's a really hard mindset to have. And I suppose my advice would be preparation, mentally and physically. Physically, strong body, strong mind. You know, you've got to get yourself into the gym. You've got to be physically prepared for it, because you don't want to be tired all the time. You want to be top of your game. Mentally as well, read, monitor, look, be vigilant to things. Open your eyes and start devouring as much content as you possibly can. Then make a decision, decide whether you're actually ready for it, because it's not for everybody, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know that you said that don't necessarily trust the advice, but I thought that was great advice, and you handed it out freely.
Oh, well,
so there you go.
Yeah.
I actually think that was fantastic.
Well,
so
there's
thank you.
a caveat to all of this.
So who would you say have been your role models in your kind of
me.
journey?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't really have role models. Yeah, I don't really have this, you know, I come from a bit of a broken family, so I don't really have a dad to look up to. You know, the people I've met in my business journey haven't kind of made the bar in terms of being role models. But what I would say is what I've been able to do is monitor people, like I said, and look at their failures and use those as role models in terms of, right, this is what not to do, not necessarily what to do. There's not been one sort of singular person in my life that's kind of steered me in this kind of direction. You know, I've had support from people, Kieran Murray, you know, great friend of mine. We've always stuck together. He's not, what's the word? He's not necessarily like a massively driven entrepreneur, if you know what I mean. He's not like money hungry, chasing stuff all the time. So that helps level me out, because it's like the yin and yang sort of mentality, where I'm like, I want it all now kind of mentality. So it does kind of help to pull me back in. So I suppose in a weird way, Kieran, you know, he's kind of been my stalwart, if that makes sense. Yeah, don't take it to heart, mate.
There's a bromance going on here.
There's a bit of a bromance.
It's great.
But I mean, there's individuals in my life, you know, like family, friends. You know, I've got a daughter, so you know that's a big sort of driver for me, because none of what I'm doing is for me. Like, you know, it goes back to that passion thing that we were talking about. You know, am I passionate about my work? Yes, when it goes right. When it goes wrong, absolutely not. Am I passionate about the money I make from it? Absolutely, because it allows me to do things that I would otherwise not be able to do. But essentially, you know, if you gave me £1 million to dig a hole, I'd become very fucking passionate about that hole. You know, so
Love that.
And outside of business, what? Because the passion's come up quite a few times. Where is your passion? Like, what is your why?
My daughter, yeah, for sure. Yeah, my daughter, because. Like I said, I came from a bit of a broken family, and you know there were things that money and success could have solved. It couldn't have solved everything, obviously, you know. But I suppose it's the ability to have options. You know, I don't ever want to be in a position that I was when I was younger, or that my family were in, my mother and my father, where they made choices based on the options that they had, which were very few, and those choices weren't always the best choices because of the options that they had. But being able to be an entrepreneur and being able to have a business gives you options. You know, what school's my daughter going to go to, where we're going to live, you know, those kind of things really, really do drive me along. But it's that balance, isn't it, between having a business that takes up all of your time because you're working your nuts off to be able to protect and provide for your family and so on, and then jeopardizing the time aspect. So, you know, there's a fine balance there, but yeah, without getting too deep, that's pretty much the driving force.
Brilliant.
What an incredible answer.
And what does the future look like for Zumo Agency? What do you
I
have
have
in
no idea.
store?
Absolutely no idea. If anyone tells you they've got a game plan, throw it in the bin, because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen this afternoon. All we can possibly do is pursue the best options that we have. Now, obviously, I want the business to grow. I want the business to develop, for sure, absolutely. But I'm not stupid enough to think that, you know, in a year's time we'll still exist. We might not. You know, that's the beauty of it. But I've got loads of limited company names, so don't worry about it.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
I have loads. You know, Alfie Limited. You know, the list goes on.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it. If this fails, we'll do something else.
Great.
It's like me with domain names, honestly.
Oh God,
yeah,
you and your domain names.
Yeah, I suppose we've what I'm trying to do now is kind of develop those tentacles, if you know what I mean, in terms of reach of media partners, but also we've dabbled a bit with delving into the world of social media, in terms of LinkedIn, trying to pull people from LinkedIn and saying, hey, you've got a great voice here, but how about stepping it up a bit in terms of like Bloomberg or something? Let's get you round the table with these guys. And yeah, we've been dabbling with that, and it hasn't gone particularly well at the moment. But yeah, we're looking. We'll see.
Amazing. I think it might be time for a quick fire round.
Definitely.
So we have 3 questions that we ask everyone that comes on the podcast. Number 1, what is your best business accomplishment? I'd say no humble brags, but I think you'll absolutely smash this one.
Business accomplishment.
Yeah.
Probably launching ESG Gen. So ESG Gen was a tiny little sort of 2-person company. that we're trying to do good within the ESG world, trying to get companies to be more aware of financial inclusion, which essentially means that we've got an office in London. It's going to cost you 40 quid to commute every single day. We're not going to be able to attract the people that don't have a lot of money, but necessarily they do have a lot of talent. Does that make sense? So we worked with them on a campaign for about 6 months, trying to elevate their brand and trying to get them in front of the right people. And in the space of 6 months, they've gone from 2 people to 22 people.
Wow.
So they've just exploded exponentially. And we've earned fuck all money from it. Absolutely, like literally pennies. Like we've pretty much done it on a, we haven't lost anything, for example. But the good that it's done, because I come from that situation, has been by far my greatest success, I suppose.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What is your favourite productivity hack?
Going to the gym, exercise as much as you can, eat well, sleep well, that's probably it. I mean, for me personally, that's it. But obviously, that's not the same for everyone else.
Take care of you first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
in the sense of take care of your vessel first.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mind-opening things that ever happened to me was the realization that I'm not always going to be happy. That trying to achieve this kind of ethereal, linear state of happiness, this continuous state of happiness, is an impossible achievement. And I realized that by literally having duty and responsibility to myself, my family, duty to myself, my family, my body, like, this gift that I've been given, because we came into this life with absolutely fuck all. So we're already in profit, if you know what I mean. And the ability to make sure that I'm focused on these things first and doing my duty and having responsibility, by default, you become happier. So that's been a massive sort of game changer for me, is not giving a fuck about how I feel and just doing the things that I'm meant to be doing anyway.
Yeah.
And then, it's hard, it's horrible, but in the end you sit there and you go, yeah, I feel proud of myself. So that's been massive.
Amazing. What's one thing the internet doesn't know about you yet?
I'm not sure. No, I don't know. I'm pretty transparent, to be honest. I was a semi-professional skateboarder.
Let's talk about that one.
I was about 15. Yeah. That's about it.
Nice.
I like that.
I'll take that one.
Definitely.
Amazing.
So your journey as an entrepreneur and the experience in the media and journalism are incredibly fascinating. We've really enjoyed having you today. So before we wrap up, is there any final message or words that you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers today?
No.
You've covered it all.
No. I mean, authenticity, being you, not giving a fuck about what anyone else thinks, because at the end of the day, if they don't like you as an individual, they're not going to work with you. So it's, cutting through that corporate chaos, that sort of horrible, weird corporate white noise that we experience sometimes, and just being authentically you, whether that's on LinkedIn or within the work that you do, the results are always going to be 1,000,000 times better than the opposite.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Honestly, it has been such a treat. I don't think I've laughed actually as much. This has been the most entertaining morning, I have to say, for sure. We will be back next week with another fascinating episode and another amazing guest. I love how varied our guest range is at the moment. It's brilliant.
It's been fabulous. And we will be back next week with another very diverse, very interesting badass boss. So make sure you come back next week for your weekly dose, and we will see you then.
See you then.